I'm Jasma Balasangameshwara from the Department of Computer Science and Technology, School of Engineering, Dayanand Sagar University. On behalf of Dayanand Sagar University and Board for IT Education Standards, it is my honor to welcome our speaker, Mr. MP Keshava sir, former General Manager Development, HPCL. It's a great pleasure to welcome the delegates from various organizations. I heartily welcome the members of BITES and its associated institutions, and a warm welcome to my DSI colleagues and students. Sir obtained a BE Civil from UVCE in 1982 and joined IIT Madras for MTech, but dropped out in between and joined HPCL. In HPCL, Sir handled construction of oil terminals, LPG bottle plant operations, retail marketing operations involving construction, operations, maintenance, and upgrade of petroleum retail outlets, and internal technical audit of projects and storage point operations. Sir switched to IT in 1997 and handled batch processing operations, development and maintenance of client servers, web applications, which include system, storage, database and applications administration, and information security compliance. Sir retired from HPCL in July 2020 as the development head. A brief intro about the session. Information security is continuously evolving with newer technologies and the challenges that they bring. Lots of news about hacking, data leak, etc., which adds to the mystery of how to secure information. An attempt is being made to lay emphasis on fundamental principles based on Sir's experience to help decide what security is best suited for which system. Sir, we are so glad that you accepted our invitation and gave us your precious time to teach us about information security. I now request Keshava sir to please begin the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Jasma, and respected faculty and the interested, enthusiastic audience. I'm far from academics. The last time I was in academics was in 1983. But however, going by the practicality of the information security I handle, I thought it will be some good supplementary material to the audience. And primarily, I'm assuming that the primary audience is the students. And because you are IT students, I'm not going to get into the usual cyber security do's and don'ts, which is typically a security session that happens generally, and then you can find a lot of things in web. There's no problem. So that I'm not going to touch. Probably you will be conducting such sessions, whoever takes the field of information security. Now, my idea is to share my experience as a practitioner to the would-be practitioners, and also I'm hoping that with the change circumstances, even the other people like who are going to get into administration and development, they will find something interesting in my sharing of this information, my lessons. Thank you very much. So let me start. Since I'm in a low bandwidth, I'll pause my video. I suppose it is fine. Now, when I entered my information security role, I did not know where to start. There are so many things suddenly appearing which we had heard, but I really hadn't bothered to think deeply about it. So, first becoming familiar with the terminology itself, and then understand the concepts. And the technology also kept on evolving. When I joined, it was only client server computing. Like we are using developer 2000 and VB. Now it is totally on the other side. So a lot of changes there also. I was really overwhelmed, I would say. But then slowly I figured out the big picture and then try to understand the principles. And my advice to you also will be that don't get overwhelmed by too many things that's happening at a very rapid pace. We'll find our niche and time to learn and get the grips of the situation. And like any other human beings, we are also likely to make mistakes, and some might be dear mistakes. But then hopefully, if you stick to fundamental principles, the chances of mistakes will be less. And even if the mistakes happen, there is a backup that we tried our level best, but still over and above this one, the circumstances are against us, that kind of thing. So when we try to reduce the do's and don'ts into principles, it's likely to become abstract. Though I don't have that intention, I try to make it as simple as possible. But in case you do think that I'm talking too much of abstraction, then please do stop me or ask me questions. I'll be glad to. Now, if you see the current scenario, every day you can see in news something or the other will be about security. No news is good news, they say, but in security is all the more true. But unfortunately, no news never happens in security. Every day there will be some news of data breach, data leak, then compromise of financial integrity, then fraud, etc., etc. And another type of things you get is analyst reports. Typically what happened you can it may have already come also, I have not kept tab. 2020, what are all the security things that breaches that happened, and what are all the problems as identified, unidentified, net effect and all that. Then there will be another type of reports, security outlook for 2021. Both typically present a very gloomy outlook for the public in general, and especially for the information security professional. Really, it is a hot seat. In the developer making a mistake and creating bugs is some sort of become a well-oiled machine. But security, even now, it makes headlines in newspapers. It doesn't get your development mistake typically gets confined to the organization unless it really involves a huge number of stakeholders. But security typically is seen in Times of India or Deccan Herald or Doordarshan. Okay, that is the. Of course, I'm dated, so I should be saying ZTV. So anyway, the point is that. So how do we? And one other thing, this breach earlier was always computer systems. Now things are slowly, anything that is programmable is breachable. So that is the thing that is happening. Even just a few days ago, Amazon Kindle is in news. People have managed to hack it, and you can own somebody's Amazon account by just knowing the electronic mail, and no need for the password. So that kind of thing has happened just recently. So when we see this, if you are planning to take information security, how do you become comfortable? So first and foremost, just relax. If this is the way it is, there is nothing, your problem is everybody's problem. It is not that you are the only one who is facing this problem. This is there for all the information security practitioners. So be comfortable, relax, try to figure out big picture, understand your systems well, and then you can carry on with this journey. Then there's one other tag which is there awaiting you, the security professionals. Typically, all your IT colleagues will suspect you first for any malfunction of the system. One of my colleagues was so exasperated. One day he remarked, "Sir, if there is no water in the toilet, they will say that security has blocked ports." So this is the kind of tag you have to live on, but that is becomes your second nature. You just accept it and move on. That should not really upset you, because it's part of the professional hazard. Now, if you get into the securities by the actual facts and do's and don'ts and things like that, it is overwhelming. It is so many things, the number of tips, guidelines, then CV advisories, then patches, then lessons from the past breaches. It is just not possible to keep abreast. Even in your own very setup, suppose you are in a corporate world, it's very typical scenario. You'll have at least a few systems. You cannot have one system. Definitely there'll be few systems, and even you can't cover everything of all your components of the setup. Somebody has raised the hand. Is there a question? I cannot see.
Go ahead, sir. We'll take the questions at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Please go ahead.
So the second, so what do we do? Instead of really getting lost in this innumerable guideline tips and avalanche of information, we try to figure out some common patterns, some fundamentals, and try to make peace with ourselves and our organization. Now, talking of common principles, one very simple example I want to give is there is a rule in most of the organizations. I'm sure it will be 100%. The admins cannot do their personal work when they are in the data center network. No, this is one do, one don't. Actually, if you there is the reason that evolved, I don't know how, but something happened when things got violated. Now, one of the, I don't remember which organization, some admin made the mistake of seeing his mail in data center computer. So there was an attractive offer of some second-hand car. He clicked the picture, and then malware got installed in that machine, and there was a severe problem of contamination of the data center, and they had to, fix it in a hurry because it's a core network. If it is compromised, it is a very big problem. So instead of saying that, my way of looking at things is, instead of looking at data center, you should not use personal email. Instead of going by that, I'm just going a little down. There is a fundamental principle of security which says the least amount of information should be exchanged for any kind of thing. In data center, whatever has to be done for data center, legitimately for the business is fine. Anything over and above that, avoid it. So that principle of least information is what is the cause of this don't. So this is one example.
We lost your voice, sir.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
So what is security? Now, in a real life, I mean, this virtual lecture has some limitation. So I don't know whether the cartoon really made you smile or not, because there is no way I can assess. So similarly, this question actually in an interactive session would have been very good. But since I'm in a virtual seminar, I would encourage you to put it in the chat window, a few answers, and don't worry about right or wrong, because it's more of a practical view rather than a theoretically correct answer. How do we see the chat window? I'll pause for a little while. So apparently, I'm a retired IT guy. I'm not able to see the chat. Okay. So if somebody has put in participants. Okay. Sorry. Okay. It is the act of securing assets, either personal or corporate. Okay. Okay. My view I am presenting. See, let me give an example. Now you are at work and your spouse is at his or her workplace and children have gone to school and your house is locked, but you have the comfort and confidence that house is protected by the layers of security at the gate. Then your flat itself has a big lock plus the night latch. And even if somebody breaks in and gets in, there is your valuables are likely to be in the cupboard inside a locker. So again, 2 more keys have to be broken in, and additionally, possibly the CCTV and all are there in the. But with all this, can we say, we are secure 100%? No. But for all practical purposes, you are secure, and you have the feeling of that comfort, sense of comfort and confidence that your assets are secure. One other thing I want to talk about is asset. I don't mean physical asset alone. No, physical asset is there, definitely. But information assets are much more important. One example I can think of is, let us say you lose your laptop. You will lose a few thousands. Suppose you had an IP which was potentially going to earn you lakhs. What is the loss? So you get an idea of what I am talking. The one other thing I can example I can give. You are traveling, and to take care of any eventuality, you are carrying your card, you have some cash in the wallet. Then just in case your wallet is picked, you have kept some cash in 2 or 3 suitcases and all that. Are you secure 100%? For all practical purposes, yes, but not really, because with all this, it might happen in a very strange situation. You might be reduced to seeking help of strangers. So the point is, you have comfort and confidence this much and no further. So that is the point I'm trying to make. That is basically that is security. Now, security is essentially is cops and robbers game. It's like good guys versus bad guys. And typically you get some vulnerability. It could be physical, it could be in system, it could be in your firewall, it could be in your program, whatever. Then somebody discovers that bug or vulnerability, then fixes are released, and after some time somebody else discovers something more. Then the thing goes on. And in fact, there's a saying that any program can be reduced by at least one line, and any program has got at least one bug. So if you repeatedly do your this logic, ultimately what you get is only a bug. So it is this tendency of making a mistake that is the inherent human tendency that the bad guys try to exploit. And when it comes to good guys versus bad guys, typically the balance is in favor of bad guys. That's because they have to be right only once, whereas you have to be right always. So that is the inherent. So do we give up and say that this is a hopeless game? That is not the way. We need not do that, because in the real life also cops never give up. And second thing, because of this inherent advantage to bad guys, even good guys have realized that cooperation and technology can multiply synergy even between them. So you'll very strangely you will find that competitors are actually collaborating in making things more secure. So with this much of background, let me get into the principles, what I figured out. I mean, I did not know what exactly is the terminology to be used. These are not fundamental principles as taught in a course. This is something which lessons I learned, and in generalizing, I would put it that way, maybe. The most important thing is the threat modeling. When you want to protect any asset, basically you should know you are protecting it from what, from whom, and why you want to protect it, and what are the possible accidents, and who will be interested in attacking you, and things like that. But additional complication here is, life is evolving, technology is evolving, the way things are happening is evolving. So the total entropy is increasing like anything. And to give an example, I'm a corporate. I mean, rather, I was in a corporate setup. and there is no interface of individual doing any kind of financial transaction with my corporate site. So can I assume that hackers are unlikely to target me? No. There was a report about a couple of years ago that ITC chairman's data was being collected by Chinese hackers, and that was revealed by FBI. Now suddenly I started, why Chinese should be interested in collecting information about Indian corporates? So possibly a cyber war, we don't know. It could be Chinese are always very tight-lipped about even their physical actions. So why there is a conflict between India and China today at border itself? There are many theories. Nobody has ever come out and properly said this is the reason. Some history, something is there. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. The point is that you are modeling. If you are a bank, you have to model against financial transaction. That is not no longer the threat modeling. It is much wider. This one, you can be a part of cyber war if it happens. So simply information can be collected. This is one thing. Second thing, more down to earth, is if your setup is not secure enough, your site can be comfortably used for phishing. One example, let us say somebody tries to hack into your site, and he is able to publish a page out of your site. So then he'll go to copy the URL and send an email to some n number of people. Your ICICI bank account has been locked. So kindly you enter username and password so that your account continues to operate. This kind of thing. So when they click, what they see is your site, one page, which is copied from ICICI bank's page. Now HTML, you know very well that anything can be copied. So you have no intention that fellow has no intention of taking your data or affecting your business, nothing. You are just being used as a stand for some temporary parking place for his phishing attack. So once all this, he collects his data, he simply deletes the site and disappears. This is so this also has to be taken into account when you are actually securing your asset. The same thing is true for if you are weak, you can be used for botnet. When in some enterprise somebody installed, since you're IT, but I assume have you heard of Nagios, this open source monitoring tool? It has an account, username Nagios and password is Nagios. And if some non-security thinking person or a developer installs it at the wrong place, it is an open thing. So the enterprise got into difficulty because suddenly they found that they are getting blacklisted at many places. They didn't know what to do. Finally, on digging, it was found that one person has installed Nagios and forgot to keep it internal, and it was exposed. So these are some of the things which you have to remember. And there is another humorous threat modeling. The importance of threat modeling is also given out by a humorous incident. I have a rather joke. There was a guy who was every day crossing India-Pakistan border on a bike with a bag attached to his carrier, big bag. So security used to stop him, thoroughly search the bag. Nothing in the bag other than sand. So it went on for a while. And at some point of time, the security really gave up. He said, I won't let you. There is some issue here. You are doing something. What are you? Nobody wants sand. What are you smuggling in the sand? Then this fellow answers, no, I was not smuggling sand. I was smuggling motorbikes. So this is the clear indication of this threat modeling. I mean, example of threat modeling. So here are two extremes. Then the second principle I figured out was that think of a physical equivalent of the system, then a lot of things will become clear. At least it will give a good starting point. Now, one example I want to give is about the bank. See, in those days, many of the students, my target audience would not know this at all, I think. At least the faculty and all will certainly know. There was a time that the entire bank was being maintained in books, physical paper books. And if anybody called up and asked bank or phone, my account number is 12345, can you let me know what is the balance? Then they, sorry sir, we won't give that information over phone. You have to come physically. Suppose you went to the bank physically, if it is a small layout branch, then somebody might recognize in the bank, they might give you information. If it is a slightly bigger one, let us say, city center, for example, State Bank of Mysore, Bangalore, head office. There must be a bank operating at the ground floor, at the back side of the building. If you go there, probably they won't recognize you. So they'll say, sir, please give me the passbook. So when you make this bank online, you have to remember that, okay, this also has to be incorporated. And not only that, because you're making online, there are many more threats that also has to be taken care of. But the core, what are the things that is being done to secure your physical thing, at least that should be there in the online also. And online should provide even more security than what is there in the physical. That is one principle. Next is, there is nothing called absolute security, that I already told. But you can keep on increasing layers of deterrence for anybody who wants to compromise the security. Now, let us take the example of, I'm taking more of a practical example because you should be able to relate it. Whatever theory is there and whatever principles are there, cryptography, how the firewall works, what are the internet protocols, all those things I'm sure will be taught in the class. So I'm not really touching it. I'm going by physical thing because I want you to get the grip and idea of the correlation between what you study and what actually happens in there. So let's talk about bank lockers. Suppose you want to keep some gold in bank locker. Bank lockers are very secure, right? So if you think of the security there, first there's a major lock at the entrance of the bank. Then security is there. Then possibly an alarm connected to the nearest police station is there. Then CCTV will be there. So you somehow bypass all this and get in. Then the lockers are held in a strong room, which has a very formidable lock. Even if you compromise that, your own locker has got it can open with only two keys, one key of the bank and then one of yours. And then the breaking of that lock requires a lot of skill. So this is a typical case of layers security in a physical world. Similarly, for the information security in an enterprise, typically we have firewall, IPS, then host-based security, then network equipment is secured, then PCs are secured. In addition, you have role-based access control. Multiple authorizations are very important transactions. Maker, checker, approver, maybe sometimes two approvers, authorizing a financial transaction, etc., etc. Then all these things are audited, in the sense everything is recorded in an audit log, and multiple copies are made and tamper-proof, and they are stored at different places. Then many of the activities are even recorded, screen by screen they are recorded. In some cases like Visa data center, even the videos are recorded and kept. If a person gets into data center for doing something like changing a tape backup, that activity is recorded in the video, and the record of the data center should match with the video. So that kind of thing. And there is also concept of secure development. Now, when all these things are there, are the attacks impossible? No. Definitely attacks will be possible in spite of all that, but very, very difficult. Each layer produces a greater level of difficulty. And typically attack happens in compromising the internal guys. So an organization is more vulnerable to attack from internal guys or ex-internal guys rather than totally strangers from outside. Even if the outsider comes, they will try to compromise the internal guy's face. So the few layers are taken care of just like that, and he has to spend time only for a few layers of the total. This is the kind of, so that is a fact you have to remember. Then again, when the system has to run on trust, there needs to be a lot of arrangements to be made in a practical situation. Well, let's take the example of a bank account. Now it gives mobile and net banking. So you enter the username, password, you look at the lock sign on the bank website. You are happy that, okay, it is a secure one. So you enter your username, password, and then the bank shows you your account details, and you can do transaction, add money, debit money, whatever, and then you get out. Now, if you really sit back and see, actually the system is being run by a set of people who have been trusted, whom you are that bank trusts those people, and you trust the bank, and at the end of the day, at least in principle, a few people should be able to see all your account details. Now it is a bit scary, but if you really coming back to the physical equivalence, even in physical paper based ledgers, if somebody opened your ledger folio, you should be able to see all your account details. No, but only the online problem is somebody other, if there is a compromise, somebody other than those people who are authorized to see also can see. That is the issue. So it is a much bigger challenge. But at the end of the day, we need to trust a few people. So what is the solution? Now, should we go back to physical books? That way, it is much less insecurity than the risk than the online. Actually, there is a famous saying, the fact that motor cars have more problems than bullock carts is no reason for going back to bullock carts. So we have to manage and live with this and enjoy the benefits of the computerization. Now, some of the things which are thought about is one person should not be able to do any fraudulent transaction end to end. It's not possible at all. Second thing is that any sensitive thing should be in multiple layers, like maker, checker, approval, then audit, then recording, all those things. So, and most important, a plan B, in case something happens, how do you protect the account holders' money? Maybe insurance, maybe some fund, things like that. I really will not know because I didn't work in bank. I'm sure there will be something. Insurance I've heard of, but fund I'm not sure. And how much they should be able to do it. Then this is the one which I was talking of. Fundamental core of security is you should give that much information which is required for all the stakeholders to do their jobs. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing less is more important because the job cannot be done. And this fundamental principle is the basis of many do's and don'ts. And it is the root of a lot of conflicts within IT as well as IT and outside. So one example I think of is, at some point of time, we are trying to install Xamarin. Now, Xamarin installation, security simply said there's a rule. So you have to, if you have to install Xamarin, it has to be only through proxy. I suppose all of you know what is HTTP proxy. It converts the internal outside request to internal request and things like that. But unfortunately, there was a problem there. Something was getting broken. Maybe the Xamarin installation was using something other than HTTP. Exact thing I wouldn't know, and really we didn't go to bother much about it. But the blame game went on for some time. Then somebody sensible woke up and said, "Yeah, this is not going to work out. So let's keep a sandbox. Let it get installed. The sandbox is directly connected to Microsoft, and then we can put some limitations of not allowing anything other than Microsoft, and then we did the job. So the lesson from this is, when we make a rule, we are not forcing all the possibilities. So we should be willing to change the rule based on some principles and understanding and discussion with others. And the second thing is that security should have something more than security. They are there to ensure secure operations of the enterprise. I mean, they're not there for security's sake. So very, very important. So this is one soft skill which I would really request you to internalize, especially if you're going for security. It is good for anybody. When you actually try to collaborate and don't lose the sight of overall objective, it will be fun working in such a team. Then coming to the second page, what happens in any system has some vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities, then some unknown vulnerabilities also, which is not yet exposed, but some people who are with good intentions or bad intentions have access to that, and very soon it will become known to everybody. Now, if you typically, one of the thing, before I break into your organization, what I want to find out is, what is the system that is running the service. Now, what do? We give a illegitimate request. Now, suppose you give a wrong URL to google.com / something, which doesn't exist. You see the error page, you don't get anything. It is an error. That's all we know. Whereas typical enterprise may, you say, no, HTTP 404 generated by Apache version so and so to the last digit and things like that. Entire stack traces, error trace is available, and then more details are available in administrator log, contact administration, and all that, everything will be there. So we have to make it. So this again, I don't want to get into the do or don't of that. It is violating a fundamental principle. It is giving out information to somebody which is not required, which is not to be given, not intended. So that is the way we should look at I'm again coming back to the principle there. So I tried google.com /try ?1. So I got this, just to the requested URL /try was not found on the server. That's all we know. This is the kind of so I can never make out what is Google's, whether it is Apache, whether it is Tomcat, or it is this one JBoss. I wouldn't know, or WebSphere. So not that this is one layer. No, you are, by giving out that information, you already compromise one layer. So much for the giving out information part. Now, I would have simply said security should be simple. But then there's a danger of my audience interpreting it as, let's keep password as SBA 123. Security should be simple. That is not what is intended. So extending the password example itself, let us say you are comfortable with some particular, set of phrases. Now, if you're a typical, some of us have heard this MS Subbulakshmi Vishnu Sahasranama so much. Then let's take the first 3-4 letters. Om Vishwam Vishnu Pashatkaro. These are the 4 words. So we can take this as a seed. We can do a lot of transformation. We can substitute 5 for V. We can substitute A for at. Things like that. Whatever you have a particular concept, and using that, and in a consistent way, merging it with an organization's name, you can create different passwords for different organizations. Suppose you are dealing with Canara Bank, SBI, and HDFC. So you can create 3 different by suitably weaving that into. That is a very strong password for others, but it is very simple for you because you are able to associate. You know the logic. Once I had to lend my, after retirement, of course, I had to lend my PC to one girl whose laptop stopped working. She wanted to attend a class. So I'll enter. If then I forgot to open and give her, then it's quite possible that you'd get locked also. So I just sent her my password, and she saw that password and said, "Uncle, how do you manage to remember this?" So that is the just that is the I think I was trying to talk about. It should be and adaptable. See, when you make a security rule, it should be possible to practice it. It should not end up in not being adaptable. Then what happens? People will try to bypass. If you make a rule, it should be reasonably possible to practice the rule. So that is the thing I want to emphasize. Like if you say no password sharing, when you say no password sharing, you should give alternatives for working out some of the activities which will require password sharing. So if you are not doing it, then the people will not adopt it. So this is the let the cartoons speak for themselves. Education, this is the most important aspect, very difficult because straightforward approach will not work at all. So you keep on trying and don't give up. You have to use all your creative juices. You have to improve with better examples and things like that. But it is never a finished game, because it is like road safety. Like the cops keep on doing road safety week every year, and then they keep on giving messages everywhere. They try to explain so many things. Recently, I saw a video explaining why seat belt should be worn, so that people who are wearing seat belt because they have to pay fine know exactly why they are wearing. So, but it is definitely a thing which is we have to become comfortable. You keep doing it again and again, but it will have to evolve over a period of time. Then there is security. Typically, is the never given a credit for correct functioning of the department, for functioning of the organization. So it is mostly people joke in spite of security we are secure. So that is what is the so in order to justify that yes, a lot of effort is being put, a lot of complaints checklists are prepared. This should be there. Is password policy in there, and how many times the audit logs have been reviewed and things like that. But when you keep on ticking mechanically, it becomes some sort of complacent activity. So we need to keep it alive by doing some random checking, and then doing some sandbox experiment without some drill sort of thing. We have to devise, and depending on the situation we have to devise, so that the compliance doesn't become complacence. This is another with all your education, still the human beings are the weakest link, and they can do really great harm if not educated properly. And we need to do a lot of thinking of what can go wrong when people don't follow. Now, I wish there was a better, less respectable term for this, because it is neither social nor engineering. When my tenure as security chief came, my daughter asked me, "Papa, do you hack into computers?" So I told, "Beta, we have hack into people, not computers. People who are operating the computers." So that is in essence, social engineering. So one of the things is, social engineering works on trying to find out all the information about you to use it to uh, extract some benefit from you at the cost of you. That is what. So the root of that is really Buddha's thing, desire. When somebody gives you too good an offer to be true, probably it is that way. It is too good to be true. So if we just stop and think, most of the major portion of the scams will not happen. One of the things we have to ask for when phishing mails and things come, why me? why suddenly of all the people in the world, why this offer is being made to me? So that is one thing which is very important starting point. Then again, if you go scam by scam, there will be too many do's and don'ts. Let's take the latest example, UPI scam. I mean, even the techies have lost money. Bangalore techies themselves have lost money. That was reported in Times of India a few months ago. So you try to put up some item for sale in, say, OLX Quicker or something, and somebody calls you up and says, I am interested. I am ready to pay this much. So you are happy. Okay, very soon you got the customer. Then you give your UPI ID. That fellow sends you a scan code. In order to transfer money, I will do a test payment of 1 rupee. You please scan this code. And you scan the code, and then UPI asks you for PIN. So you mechanically put the PIN, and you find that money is debited from your account instead of money coming into your account. Now, what these newspapers leave out, they're very damaging for the people who design the application, is that the person, there was a message saying that you want to make payment of so and so to such and such UPI ID, then you go ahead and put the PIN. Then only it happens. It can never happen that you scan a code and money is debited. But the way papers report it, that only. Especially when some techies are there, people think that they cannot make the mistake. They are also human beings. All of us know that we are all techies, and we also make mistakes. So we have to at least, the principle is not, don't scan UPI is not the lesson we have to learn. When we are using some app, some system, we should at least know some broad building blocks, whether we are paying or whether we are receiving. That much we should know. That is the point I am trying to. And the fraudsters always had a way. I mean, it's not that it's happening in the information era. Even earlier they had ways, but the reach was very limited. Today you can send 1 million mails, phishing mails. Even if 1% of 0.1% respond to them, it is 1,000 people. So that is the motivation for the fraudsters to keep working. But it can try any other means. Typically you might be getting SMSs. Hi, I am Dash. Typically a female name. Preeti, Asha, whatever. Please contact me on such and such number for friendship and engagement, whatever. So now the question we have to ask is, assuming that I am not a Buddha and not a desire, first of all, why this Preeti should be of all the person interested in MP Keshava? And first of all, is it really Preeti or somebody posing as Preeti? This second question, these kind of sensible questions will stop lot of compromises due to social engineering. In fact, I had very interesting experience. One fellow called me in a very highly Punjabi accent. Sir, मैं राजू बात कर रहा हूँ जी. तो अलवर से बात कर रहा हूँ जी. And he's going on to describing that he was doing some wall work. He was digging. So he found a pot of gold covered with cloth, and he doesn't want to take the risk of directly going disposing. He wants some partner. आपको 50% दे देगा. Then 50% I'll give you. So I profusely thanked him for his offer. I said, I don't need it. But the point I'm trying to, even a phone call is a positive. I asked him, how did he get my number? He didn't even know my name. He said he got it from a dhaba in Jaipur. I mean, which is very unlikely. That's the point. What I'm trying to say is, this is also a principle. Social engineering is one principle which you have to pay a lot of attention. Then, the dots of our vulnerability. When you go to a cloth shop, okay, you swipe your card. Then typically they'll ask name, date of birth, anniversary, number of children, address, everything you're very happy to write down and give. Then if there is an unscrupulous person, he's already taken your card in hand, so you would have memorized your card number as well as CV. Now you can try doing some online transaction, but you'll be stuck at OTP. Now, that clearly shows the effectiveness of layers. So it is an example of deterrence in layers. So you'll have to do a swim fraud. That's a different issue. I'm just giving an example of how the different dots of vulnerability are there, which is difficult to avoid also, because you go to a hotel, they insist on your ID, Aadhaar. Government ID, they don't accept PAN. They accept things like Aadhaar, driving license, online, where you are giving out your information. I mean, there's no way you can. So the more you are keeping at the minimum, like for example, you did not give anniversary and date of birth to the cloth shop. Thank you very much for the nice thoughts. That should be good enough. Okay. Okay, I'm not able to get. Okay, let me just let me see whether chat will, no. Okay. Now the next one is constant learning. In security, there is no further matter. If in any area it is true, in security it is all the more true. You need to master all technologies, but it is not possible. Not even major technology you'll be able to master. So you can, what you do typically is to do a very essential thing where you can ask sensible questions and figure out whether the answer is a real one or a hoax one. Now, one of my mentors in my organization who retired as ED he was giving me a very good advice. For any subject, read the dummies book if it is available. Typically, they will go out of the way to simplify things and explain. So that will give you a lot of insight of how things happen. So you do in your own setup, you first try to understand the broad picture and what are all the systems. Try to do one in most of the things that is there, and then try to apply the principles. Now, when I say understand, it's the full technology, not at the detailed level of software, but more at the process level. Suppose you implement React, let us say React framework. Now, what happens is, uh, somebody copies the code on Google and pastes it into your software. Now, what should be our reaction there? These are the kind of things which you actually, what is the method of checking that this code is secure and it doesn't violate IP, things like that. So these are things which should we really concentrate and understand overall how systems interact and things like which you will definitely do if you continue to work in an environment. Slowly, the thing will go beyond your normal. The securities thing is that they have to go beyond their very small specialized zone. There is nothing called specialized zone in security because security is for the entire organization. While the specialists are there doing small part of it, there should be at least a few guys who understand the overall architecture. And then there is a sharing. This one session typically happen in the development. Developers share all the new techniques they learned, zing bang everything, but security is hardly a topic there. So as the things are progressing now, I hear terms like secure SDLC, secure DevOps, and all that. Hopefully, that will become a thing of standard practice, so which will definitely enhance our security posture. So, in a 45-minute lecture, it's not possible to cover many things. I just thought I'll mention this. The industrial control systems are primarily developed for measuring, monitoring, and controlling industrial control equipment. No, they never anticipated someday computers will take over that function, and they never thought of security in that sense. But without much ado, lot of things have already come onto internet. I mean, it's there is an interaction. So because of that, they are, in spite of a lot of work, there are a few shades behind us. The mainstream security. So in fact, Internet of Things is also described as Internet of Threats. So I mean, maybe some of you, when you take security as a career, you'll do a lot of contribution here. Even today, I mean, I didn't check today per se, but a few days back, definitely I've seen. You can check out the search for equipment which are available on the net to manipulate. how many of you, just go back and see how many of you have changed the password of your router, internet router. Most of it will be at admin username, admin password. You can change both. So those who are not changing are liable to be, or rather vulnerable for the attack from outside, taking over of your. So this is an example of. And when this kind of information available, state agencies would have completely taken this information and kept it as the database. When the cyber war comes, you can always play with this and stop water supplies, make the pipeline blast. There's a very interesting case. You can just search information security compromise blast pipeline. That was there about a couple of years ago, I think. So these are some of the things that I learned. I tried to summarize in my best capacity. I hope you liked it. And I'm sorry I could not figure out the questions. I'm getting back to. This is not the chat. So there is the problem of no. Since no participants.
It's okay, Keshav. It's fine. There are already questions coming up on the chat box.
Okay, I request. I'm sorry. Somehow I'm not able to see the chat box.
Sir, I request Dr. Sanjay Chetnisar, Chairman, Computer Science and Engineering, to please moderate the question and answer session. Hello. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Sir, I'll take the questions from the chat. Pratik Ashok has asked, sir, what is more credible in terms of the job market? Getting a master's degree in cybersecurity or completing industry certifications like Cisco CCNP, CompTIA, Security Plus, CISSP, CISA. These are some industry certifications. So what is more credible, whether getting a master's degree in cybersecurity or going ahead with industry certifications?
I would say it's more of industry certification to the extent I saw. Masters might be in a niche area. It depends on what level and where you are entering. So in a typical scenario, one of the guys who are working in facilities help desk in my office, and they did CCNA and they switched out to networking in Wipro and all that. A good job thing they joined. So I do feel that there is a lot of weight in this one in the broader initial segments. In the beginning careers. But when it comes to if you are trying to design a system or you're involved in core strategy and all that, probably masters will be more weighted. That is, and especially if it is coming from a good institute, certainly it has its weightage.
Thank you, sir. Participants, I request you to please post your questions on the chat box. Sir, we have one more question. What's the day-to-day responsibilities, tasks to be performed by an information security specialist in an organization? This is again by Pratik Ashok.
Again, physical equivalent. In a typical security scenario, nothing much happens. It leads to complacence. But that is why, just to make it ensure that we don't lose sight of our major objective, typically it is the first thing is checking out whether things are in place. Like, whether any rules have to be changed in firewall for specific requests. So that has to be implemented. Second thing, logs have to be reviewed for any anomalous activity. Then there is a security incident and information and event management. SIEM is a term that is used for n number of individually not important but correlated plays a important role. That kind of analysis is being done, and that is gone to now already using patterns and artificial intelligence. But as of now, the human intelligence is there. I mean, even if the artificial intelligence projects something, that we need to actually understand and act on that. But every day will not be, should not be. If it is very interesting, then it is something wrong with the organization, because every day it should be driven. The typical thing is, when you look up any log, invariably we see people trying to attack us with various username and passwords. And in my time itself, initially there are some strange names, but subsequently they improved. They started using Indian names. That is the kind of so you work with a checklist, we can say that way. But as I said, there is also evolution of checklist over a period of time.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from our Dean, Dr. A. Srinivas, sir. Could you please throw some light on the mechanisms to debug highly secure data? Example, defense-related border data.
Defense-related
some light on the mechanisms to debug highly secure data. For example, we would like to say attempt and hack on defense-related border data.
I have never worked in defense. I will not be able to give you that. And typically, what we do, I can tell you. So we look at first thing, we all correlate the logs of multiple equipments into this one security operating center, which is working on, I think, probably ARC site. I'm not very sure, because it is an outsourced activity to this one of the providers, and try to see the broad patterns. Over a period of time, the patterns again are as of now defined by some an example, a simple example. If one fellow is able to log in after 6 failed attempts, different PCs, so immediately it raises a flag. So 6 attempts are individual events, it is nothing, but within the span of such and such time and at different places, this is an alarm. So this kind of rule is written in that. But the promise now is, over a period of time, they take base data. So let us say 3 months of data is fully analyzed. What is normal and what is abnormal? You come to know about it. And when something deviates, let us say in a bank, for example, every day one person, so let's say 10,000 transactions are there. Suddenly there are 20,000 transactions. And if there is no other correlation, there is something to be looked into. And highly secured data, I'm not very sure what exactly when you mean you are given an assignment of defense establishment to debug and understand. I'm not really getting there. The question is, getting data itself will be very difficult. I think you need to sign a lot of agreements, and background will be checked, and because that is one area which is very, very sensitive.
Yes. Thank you, sir. We have one more question from Mir. Malware could access the IoT devices, routers. How did it manage to compromise computers to make DDoS attack?
So DDoS essentially is overwhelming a server with so many requests. The server stops functioning. It's not able to handle anymore. So that is the same principle applied here also. But again, IoT, I only mentioned in passing. I didn't get opportunity to really work in IoT. But if it can be, IoT is at the end of the day, it is sending the simple data to the edge system, which is then it is processed. So I have to imagine, because I was totally in a commercial system. I only read about. That's why I said in passing.
Yes.
The same principle should apply, I guess. So that's why there was so much of hesitation in adoption in an open way. It used to be very, very. Even control systems are pretty much isolated from systems.
Yes, thank you, sir. So we have one last question from Pratik Ashok again. Sir, can you please name a few software tools that are mostly used in this domain?
Oh, see, open source is the best. This one, there are many tools. Starting from simple Nmap scanner, then this Ethereal, that is Wireshark, which is the sniffer, packet sniffer, then vulnerability scanner like an SS. Then there is the suits like made of Kali Linux, for example, recently, and one more thing which had this Zing. This IBM ka we had AppScan, and there was an open Zing. The open source scanner was also there. So again, number of they're too numerous. This much I can recollect on the top of my.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request our Dean, Dr. H. Srinivas, sir, to please propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Jasma. It was extremely practical treatment on the security of data networks. It was so practically dealt with that, especially the equations were not touched at. That was the best part of this, presentation. And when you said Internet of Threats as one of the definitions IoT, I think it was very well thought over. I can very well see what kind of threats are going to come when millions and millions of nodes are going to talk to each other. And it has aroused a good lot of interest in our students and faculty to get into the domain of this security. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And we really enjoyed, and it was very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to thank Arun Srinivas for introducing MP Keshava to us for giving this lecture. I think the best part of the thing is the entire lecture was based on the common sense. I think he brought out a lot of examples from the principle 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all from the common sense point of view. It's a phenomenal top class lecture where he dealt everything from the perspective of things that we handle on day-to-day basis. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. He was after me to literally compile something. I was not very sure that I'll measure.
It was very good, sir. Very good. I liked it. I liked it.
So thank you, sir. We hope to have you again for a few other lectures. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Arvind, sir, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And thank you, Keshava. Thank you again for help.
Okay.